A few of them. You know what I gotta do? You can't drink in the field.
We're actually live on the sound yet. I just turned it on
The mics.
the mics are on now. They're loud.
Yes, they
It's a
are.
nice microphone. We don't have to be right on top of them.
Good.
Make sure it's picking up. If it's not picking up, get it closer.
Let everybody say.
At the end, Larry.
Was that the invocation?
Amen.
It is 4:00 on August 17th, 2020. Now officially call this meeting of the Conway City Council to order. There are a few housekeeping announcements I'd like to make. Anybody who is observing may notice that we're in another venue. We're in person again. I'd like to give special thanks to Michael Moody and Mamie Hopkins for setting up the space for us. We're socially distanced and should be safe in this environment. We have a quorum present. I can see for myself that all 7 members of this council are present. And Madam Clerk, have we satisfied the requirements for the Freedom of Information Act?
Yes, we have.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask Deborah Dixon, who is chaplain of the Conway City Police Department, to come forward and open our meeting with an invocation. Ms. Dixon, thank you so much for being here.
If I drop this a little bit,
Oh, yes, you may.
I think I'm 6 foot. First off, let me tell you what a privilege it is to be here and to tell you that I don't take this thing lightly. I was praying this morning, and as I was praying, it's always that concern, will you pray it right? Will you do it right? No matter how many times you prayed in your 4,000 years of life. But in my spirit, I heard the Spirit of God say, just keep it simple. So if you would you recite with me the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, great evening. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion? Mr. Hyman?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. White?
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve the agenda as it is set forth. All in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And now relative to the consent agenda, is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Hubbard, Mr. Goldfinch.
I second Mr. Hubbard's motion.
Thank you. A properly seconded motion to approve also the consent agenda as it is set forth. All in favor with a show of hands, please. And that motion also carries unanimously. Item 5 is a special presentation, a discussion on Culture Road, Oak Street annexation and rezoning. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, this is a request to annex approximately 6.35 acres of property, which is actually 13 parcels located at Coltra and Oak Streets, and a request to rezone from Horry County Residential SF20 to City of Conway Medium Density Residential R2. As you can see on this map, it's the 13 parcels. They were actually parceled out at the county. And you may remember the larger parcel behind these parcels was annexed recently into the city. So with that, because these now touch and are contiguous, in order to develop, they are required to request annexation. The engineer that is working on the larger parcel and the larger development is also working on the smaller development as well, Mr. Ryan Harvey, and he's here and can answer any specific questions you may have. But our hope is by annexing these parcels in, then it can work together with the larger development and be a little cleaner than if it were developed at the county level. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Tonight is just a presentation. It'll come back before you for first and second reading.
I have one general question. There are a list of approved items for this particular zoning for R2, and then there are conditional uses. Would you help us would you say a bit about what is already approved and how those conditional uses come to play?
Sure. The way that our ordinance is set up, when you have a certain zoning district, you have uses that are allowed by right, and then you have conditional uses. If it's conditional, it means that there are certain conditions that must be met in order for you to develop that type of use. And it's different for different type of uses, but it just gives a little more conditions rather than just a blanket, it's permitted.
Okay. I thought that might just need to be said for the
Sure.
public as much
Yeah,
as anything.
absolutely.
Does anybody have questions? Mr. White?
Yes, thank you. I'm concerned about connectivity from one portion to the next portion. The sidewalks is where I'm going. Would there be any sidewalks added to any of these so that they could connect in the future? Even if there's none there now, would you be providing any on your portion?
We would, the applicant has actually requested not to put sidewalks on Culture because when DOT comes and expands and widens the road, they would be tore out. They were looking at maybe doing a fee in lieu of sidewalks on Culture. Now, the ones on Oak Street will be put in. So I guess right now, Oak would be more of a travel corridor, and then Culture is more of a busy right of way. So they would probably end up being put in by DOT in the future. But there are plans. There's a 15-foot buffer that's actually fronting on these lots now that will be, they don't exist right now, but we will be adding that to put the trees and the sidewalks.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Goldfinch?
Thank you, Mayor. That makes a lot of sense. But speaking of the cultural widening project, when is that? Do we know when that is?
Right, that's my next question.
I contacted DOT to ask them about sidewalks in the right of way, and they were pretty much saying, no, we don't really want them in the right of way. But he said probably 10 years or more. And I got an email I could probably forward to the city staff.
Which leads me to a staff question. Should a widening occur where sidewalks exist? Does SCDOT have an obligation to replace them?
I think that would depend on where it was, but I know any new developments that have been coming through since it's been an approved project and GSAP, we've made sure that those developers are setting aside space for those sidewalks. So it's something that is incorporated early on, so it doesn't come up often down the road. That's something we're watching closely, and when Ryan first came to us about this, it's something we brought to his attention that it was shown.
Sure.
It's going to widen in the future, so we need to plan around.
And this is sincerely more just a general question rather than about your project. I'm just acutely aware that the pedestrian traffic on Cultural Road is increasing. And I don't know where that increase is coming from, but just needed to know that. Mr. Hyman?
As far as the widening project with DOT, does the right of way to do the widening already exist, or will that something that will have to be obtained through condemnation?
Well, that's one of the reasons we were looking at putting the 15-foot buffer in front of the lots. So then when they came through, they would have 15-foot of buffer they could take. So it really wouldn't affect the home lot. And we still have the minimum lot depth, 120 foot. Obviously, these lots are a lot wider than what the R2 requires because of the driveway spacing that DOT requires. They base driveway spacing on the speed limit, and we actually have shared driveways. So each lot has one shared driveway for two lots.
And that's something we'll make sure they factor in, so that houses aren't going to be too close to where that right away to be required.
We know how that results. Look like 378. Anybody else?
Make one more point.
Absolutely.
That bringing it into the city would require the sidewalks if it's staying in the county. Sidewalks cannot be required. So that is one plus the annexation.
Would you repeat that, babe? I'm having a hard time hearing.
Sure, it's hard to-
Yes.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
apologize.
That'll do it.
No, you're fine. I
These
kept
old
stepping away and
years.
talking. If it, the city requires sidewalks, if these parcels are annexed, if it stays in the county to be developed, sidewalks would not be required.
But would they have a choice? Would they not have to come into the city if they were going to expect city services?
They have to request annexation, and it would be called, council's ultimate decision whether to annex.
I see. But yeah, there's a little assumption that sits there.
Right.
Okay, all right. Mr. Hammond, is that do you need to be
No, no,
heard?
I was just got the head.
Okay, all right, just to be sure. Well, it sounds like we're satisfied with the discussion. Good luck to you. I'm sure that our staff will work very closely with you as you get closer to some movement on your projects. I'm as excited about the widening of the road as all the changes that are going to occur right in that area.
Yeah, most of the DOT projects, just let you know, they have been considering bike lanes and multimodal sidewalks up to that nature.
Yes.
So I'm sure that you guys could get whatever you wanted. It might have a little money.
I like that wishful thinking. I like the way you
City
think.
engineer from Myrtle Beach and I've done a lot of DOT projects, road widening, bike lanes.
We just haven't been so successful with our wishes. But we'll look forward to a change. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan.
And Mr. Emmett, you're the only person without a mic. We'll now entertain public input. I know there may or may not be people out in the hallway waiting to come in, but I'll first ask the clerk if she's received any public input for the council.
Yes, I have. This is from Herbert Brown Jr. He'd like the city to buy some land and make a big park out of it with a wide bike trail, which you can use for jogging or walking, with exercise stop areas along the trail, with little hills and curves going through the woods for about 7 miles in a circle. A big parking lot, restroom, tables, benches, trash cans, pond, cops on bikes, gives the people something to do that love to ride, walk, or jog without reading traffic streams or worrying about a truck hitting you.
I know Mr. Brown personally. I'll talk to him about those 7 miles. But I think we all share his interest in having a safe bikeway. We don't have one. So I'll have a conversation with him about that. Thank you so much. Do you believe there's anybody in the hallway who may want
Okay.
to offer? Would you check, please? Thank you. He's pretty specific with that request.
He said to spend somebody else's money.
Wow. How do you do?
He's not here for public input. He's for the next.
Okay.
The
Okay.
next
Well,
item.
we'll move forward. Item 7 is, yes, please, Ms. White.
May I like to close public input?
Yes, Mr. Jordan.
I second.
It took me a second there, Mr. Jordan. Now, all I can think of was Justin. There probably seconded motion to close public input at this time. All in favor with a show of hands. And the motion carries unanimously. Now for item 7, public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2020-0908C, an ordinance for the closure of Skipper Road, PIN 32500000012. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, and this goes back to the subdivision we were just discussing. But as part of the development for that subdivision, they are working to close Skipper Road. There are state requirements when you close a road, but we also have city ordinance requirements. And part of that is for the closure to be approved by city council at 2 readings. So it's before you again. We discussed it at workshop at the last meeting. Charlie Jordan is here to act on behalf of the client as the attorney and can answer any specific questions you may have.
Thank you. Is anyone present for public hearing? Ms. Tessier, have we heard from anybody relative to this particular issue?
I have nothing.
Okay. Well, we need to close the public hearing, Mr. Goldman.
Mayor, I move that we close public hearing.
Thank you, sir. There's a second. Ms. Sims.
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion now to close the public hearing on this issue. All in favor, with a show of hands, please. Thank you so much. Motion carries unanimously. And now, relative to first reading, are there questions or is there discussion? Mr. Golfin?
Mayor, I was going to move that we approve first reading of said ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Mr. Hubbard?
Mayor, I'll second Mr. Goldfinch's motion.
Mr. Hubbard seconds Mr. Goldfinch's motion to approve first hearing on this issue. Now, is there any discussion?
Question.
Right? Yes, sir.
I asked this before about a grave site in that area.
Yes.
Is there one that's presently, and would that be harmed in any form or fashion by the building? Okay, it will be preserved then.
It will. It's actually on the Horry County Historic Register, and they have staked it out. So it's clearly marked. And so that's something, as staff works on the development of the site, we'll make sure that that continues and is preserved.
Very good. Thank you.
This doesn't change anything, but I was always under the impression that Skipper Road was not an official road, whatever that really means, but it's signed as if it is a county road.
It is. And which is why I think Charlie's firm has been involved in it, because it is a complicated case.
Well, I live very near there. I drove down Skipper Road about a week ago. You don't have to worry about me trying it again. Oh, my
Right.
goodness.
That's what we figured.
Yeah. So I'll call for a vote. We have a motion pending for first reading to close Skipper Road. All in favor, with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Item 8, first reading of ordinance ZA 2020-0908D, an ordinance to annex approximately a third acre of property located at 803 Johnson Street, TMS 136-1211009, and request to rezone from Horry County Residential, SF20, to City of Conway Low to Medium Density Residential District, R1. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, and this property recently changed hands, and therefore, in order to continue to receive services, annexation must be requested. This actually would help fill a donut hole that we have. So staff and TRC committee recommends approval of the annexation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hyman.
Mayor, at the appropriate time, I will make a motion that we approve first reading.
Thank you, sir. I think this is that time. Ms. Kim? We have a properly seconded motion to approve first reading of this ordinance. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor with a show of hands. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. We'll move on to item B, first reading of ordinance ZA 2020-0908E, an ordinance to annex approximately a half acre of property located at 1049 Academy Drive, TMS 15000021113, and request to rezone from Horry County Residential, SF10, to City of Conway Low to Medium Density Residential District, R1. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, and this is a similar request. It actually became contiguous when the city annexed and acquired the Westmoreland tract as a conservation tract. But this differs a little in that staff does not recommend annexation because it's located on Academy Drive. We don't have any other homes annexed at this time, so it would really be a strain on city services. I've spoken to the other department heads, and I got a unanimous denial as the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Ms. Timms?
I make the motion, we deny this.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. White?
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to deny this request for annexation. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. We'll move forward now to item 9. 9A is consideration to apply for grant funding from the FY20 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program. Mr. Rogers.
Good evening. This is a grant, entitlement grant that's available to the city. It's basically the, out of this pot of money, it is proportioned to cities chosen based on demographics and other information every year. This is immediately available. All it takes is approval of council. It's not competitive process. So all we have to do is come up with a program. In this case, the police department has chosen to apply for 4 security cameras to be used in neighborhoods and 1 forensic camera. The program cannot go under budget. We have to spend at least all the funding, so it will go slightly over budget depending on the bids, probably by at most about $1,000. And so, as I said, all it takes is action of council to accept the funding.
Thank you, sir. May I ask you a question before we go further? What's the difference in a security camera, if I might use that term, and a forensic camera?
Security camera, will just like the ones you would put on your house, we'll use those to monitor high crime areas. A forensic camera it uses different light wavelengths to see things, take a picture of things that we can't see, like bodily fluids or that kind of thing.
Oh, I
And it's
see.
used to investigate a
see.
crime scene.
Okay, real forensics.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. What is the will of the council? Mr. Hyman?
Mayor, I would make a motion, we authorize staff to accept the $10,568 for the FY20 Edward Burns Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second? Mr. Jordan?
I'll second.
For a properly seconded motion to claim our own through this grant. All in favor with a show of hands, please. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Mr. Orders, are you leaving now?
No, I'm
Okay,
stating.
I just need to say something to you before you leave. Thank you, sir. Item B, consideration of permitting a current transient mobile vendor. All God's children love ice cream. We won't fight with that. To be allowed at Collins Park, property of the city. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, you may remember this was discussed at special presentation at the last meeting, but at that time, it was just for discussion, so we brought it back before you tonight for a vote. But I'm happy to answer any more questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Because we've been briefed, Mr. Hubbard.
If it's time, I'll move to allow God's children to have ice cream.
Very well put. Is there a second? Ms. Sims? Probably seconded motion to allow all God's children to have ice cream. All in favor with a show of hands, please.
Question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir, please. I'll ask you to vote later.
I'm being picky, but I want to try to close a door properly. If this organization can do it at Collins Park, can it not go to Smith Jones or to the 16th Avenue Park as well?
Yeah, what is it about?
City Parks is where I'm going.
Right.
They had actually asked to come to the rec center and Collins Park, but we have a franchise agreement here at the rec center, so that was off the table. So they just asked for Collins. They may come back and ask for more if this is successful, but this was just the initial request, what they wanted to start with.
Along that same line, would there be any reason to restrict which parks, except with the exception of the recreation center itself?
Not that I'm aware of.
Certainly expand your approval today to all the parks except for this one, and they can choose if they wanted to use it or not.
I'd just like to negate the need for them to come back should they decide to spread to another park.
Yeah.
Good point.
That's a great point.
Would it mean that we'd have to go back to our motion?
Who made the
to
initial motion on that one, Barbara?
Yes.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll change my motion to allow them at every park that we don't have a franchise agreement.
Yes, thank you. And the person who seconded, Ms. Timms, I think it was, would you agree to that? So the motion has been changed. It has been made and properly seconded. Thank you very much for that point, Mr. White. And now for a
And
vote.
another point.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I'll slow down.
I'm trying to stop us from having to come back to this thing again.
Yeah.
Now, suppose I have a ice cream truck or something else, and I wanted to do likewise. Would I have to come through the same thing as well?
The way our ordinance is written now, yeah.
And well, since we expanded it, I'll shut up.
No, not at all. But at some point, we may discuss allowing our administrator to be able to give approval under some set of rules.
We have a set of rules in place with this permission in there now to come to council and ask for it. As far as I know, this is the first time it's been asked for since in my 5 years at the city. If it becomes something that happens routinely, then perhaps we should amend the ordinance. But until then, I think
Sure.
as long as it doesn't become a burden on council.
That's right. All good points. Thank you so much. So now we have a motion that's been revised, that's been seconded, and are our questions answered? With that being done, all in favor of this motion, please, with show of hands. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Item C is a special event request from Dr. Screams for Halloween and Christmas events. Mr. Smith. Thank you for having us here, by the way.
Oh, we're glad you're here. Okay, what we're here for today is our Halloween and Christmas celebration of lights celebration in the past, but we've done our celebration of lights. Christmas time, it's been a burden on our staff working it. We've lost money every year that we've done it. So we've got into a situation to where talk to Gary Bingham, who's the president and CEO of the Bargain Warehouse, which he runs Dr. Screams. I'm gonna take this mask off a little bit. Is that okay if I do that?
Yeah, I think you're probably 12 feet away from me.
So, and what we came up with, in order for us to expand and make it better, to make it a show that could compete with the James Islands, the North Myrtle Beaches, and still have a price point that the citizens of Conway can afford to come to the show, we came up with a Halloween and Christmas light celebration. So what we're trying to do from October the 13th through October 31st, we'll have our Halloween celebration of lights. And it'll be more of a kid-friendly show. Won't be a lot of Friday the 13th and scary stuff. It'll be more Casper-esque. We'll have different things going down the same route that we have our Christmas celebration of lights. We'll also expand that to the Riverfront Park and have more of a haunted house for kids and adults there. And they'll have rock climbing walls, a lot of activities that'll bring a lot of people to the city of Conway. And then when that ends up, October 31st, we'll open back up as we traditionally have done with our Christmas celebration of lights, the 26th of November, and run through January 1st. Price point, hadn't come up with that yet, but it's going to be very affordable for everybody, and it's going to bring a lot of people to the city of Conway. We'll have our lights that we already have, and they are in the process of building more lights and more shows and more different things to bring to the city of Conway. Riverfront Park will be Norman Rockwell. That's his word, Norman Rockwell, and we'll hallmark the heck out of it, as we like to say around here. We'll make it classy. It'll, like, again, I can't say enough, it's going to bring a lot of people to the city of Conway. And having our Santa's Village at the beautiful Riverfront Park, where we can have acts down there at the stage, we can have different kind of vendors that can come in. The city can make some money off of this. Again, in the past, we've lost several dollars on this, but it's a service, and I understand that. But with this, it can compete this year. Next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be majestic what we're going to do in the city of Conway.
You've got me waiting for Christmas.
I'm ready.
All right.
And plus, with the way the COVID is, people will stay in their cars for the most part. Even if we're still in an outbreak, we can still drive through it with your family and have something to do. Since a lot of events have been postponed and canceled, this is something that we can put in stone and concrete.
I can even see a haunted house that allows just a family in for a few minutes at a time before the next group goes in.
Yes, that's the plan.
Good, thank you so much. Comments, questions? Okay.
Well, I think this is the route that we should be going. I think it's always taken away from our city employees, although they've done a great job, and I've been grateful for it. I think we've done a good job with the beginning, but this is a way to carry it forward into the future, and I would like to make a motion that we put this in place.
Thank you.
And one more thing I'd like to add, Dr. Screams is in Myrtle Beach, but he will be hiring teenagers, whatnot, our workers for the city of Conway. If they want to work, he'll hire Conway people, so they'll have jobs in the summer. So they won't be missing out if our people were looking for overtime or something of that nature. Or kids in the gym needs a job. He's definitely working with us there.
Right, that's good news. We have a motion, Mr. Hammond?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you so much. A properly seconded motion. Are there other comments or questions? There being none, all in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Smith. Item D, consideration of bids for street resurfacing. And that will be presented by Mr. Fleming. Hey, Mr. Fleming.
Mayor and council, in front of you is the issue paper for the street resurfacing contract for 2020 and 21. The city had budgeted $679,000 for the street resurfacing asphalt repairs. City has put up $339,500 and CTC has matched that same amount. The bids were sent out and come back on August 3rd with Palmetto Court being the lowest bidder. Staff recommends to award the contract to Palmetto Court for the amount of $407,386. $407,386.18.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. What is the will of the council? Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I move that we approve the list as outlined.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Mr. White?
Second.
A properly seconded motion. And now for general comments and questions, if there are any. I'll ask just one question. Is it to the untrained eye, there may be some concern about the concentration of the area where this many projects are going on. Is that customary? Or is there some rationale behind it?
Braxton, if you want, a lot of these roads were damaged during Hurricane Florence, and they've deteriorated severely since then. Sherwood Drive especially. The reason they're in concentrated areas, both Sherwood and Busby were underwater for a significant amount of time and caused a lot of damage to those roads.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? There being no other comments, I'll call the vote. All in favor, with a show of hands, please. And that motion also carries unanimously. I got to say to you, I'm looking for your last name, Mr. Fleming. I'm so proud of you. When we first worked together, your role was very different. You were like a lot of years younger, and I'm really proud that you're still here and that you've proven who you are. That's a good deal. All right, thank you. I mean to embarrass you now. I mean that from my heart. Just a little bit, yeah. But seriously, he's just a boy. Item E, consideration of extending ordinance 2020-0706A, amended emergency ordinance requiring face covering or mask to be worn in public in the city of Conway during the COVID-19 public health emergency and recovery expiring on August 18th, 2020, to be extended until September 9th, 2020 at 9 a.m. Mr. Emmerich.
Well, good afternoon. When we put this into place, it's been 4 weeks now ago when we put the mask mandate into place. We put it with an expiration date of tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. so that we could reevaluate it, determine if we wanted to renew it or extinguish it at this point. It does expire tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Staff is recommending that we continue it until the date that is listed in the agenda. And the reason we've chosen that date as our extension is the state of emergency expires on September 11th. We have in our ordinance a finite amount of time that a state of emergency can remain, and that is the date by which we cannot continue. If we are still in a state of emergency at the September 8th meeting, then we would need to consider the declaration of a new state of emergency. And we don't know what the numbers are going to be on September 8th. As of right now, it looks like we're still going to be having a pandemic at the time. We cannot extend the mask mandate beyond the state of emergency declaration. They are tied together. So we would recommend as staff to continue the mask mandate until the September 9th date, which is the day after our September 8th meeting at 9 a.m. like we've been, to be consistent. One piece of evidence in support of the mask mandate, there was an article that came out in Forbes magazine on August 12th, and it uses DHEC data, but what it showed in this, or what it's illustrated in this article, was that the increase for the coronavirus case in parts of South Carolina without the mask mandate was 30%. 30% of the area that was the number of increase of areas that did not have a mask mandate in the state of South Carolina, while the overall cases with mandate, or in areas with mandate, dropped by 15%. It's a 46% change, a swing.
Right.
You cannot take a statistic like that and say it is a causation. It is a correlation. There could be a number of factors which led to that, but mask mandates, if you look at the statistics are on the screen right here. That June 10th date was the week after the July 10th date was the week after all of the areas in Horry County put the mandate in place. And you can see that weekly total has diminished incredibly so. And one final thing on that, and I'm going to jump ahead to my report because it's more timely now than it will be then. Today, the best numbers we've had in 2 months, 451 new cases statewide, an 11.5% positive return, and only 27 cases in Horry County. I don't know that the masks are the cause of that, but there's been nothing else that really has transpired but the mask mandate. We have CCU students coming back to school this week. We know there's going to be, approximately 10,000 kids coming back from other places into our area. That is likely to see an increase in the number of cases. Keeping the mandate in place for another 2 weeks will help limit some of that spread, we hope. And that's staff's recommendation.
I was going to mention the same net change over the areas in South Carolina who actually did have mask mandates. It's pretty phenomenal. And it certainly seems to be helped, if not singly, along by the mandate of the use of masks. Thank you so much for that report. I also was going to ask that we extend it further, but your explanation about the state of emergency certainly makes sense. Mr. Jordan, I saw your hand first.
I was going to make a move that we extend this ordinance, emergency ordinance on masks.
Okay, to the date that staff recommends.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Mr. Hubbard?
I'll second, but I have a question for Adam. And you may know this or may not. This was something I heard on the news the other morning, that there were 2 zip codes in South Carolina. One was Conway, one was Myrtle Beach, that were very high in the coronavirus. Do you know if it was a 2.6 or 2.7 or?
It was 2.6, but I had not heard that article, but I do know that of all the zip codes in Horry County, 29526 is one of the highest hotspots, and that is our zip code, obviously one of the 2. The other one is in the South Strand on the Tournament Boulevard area down there, the Burgess area. Those are the 2 highest areas in the county of cases. I don't know how that compares statewide, but I do know that we are definitely, or have been throughout this whole thing, one of the hotspots.
Well, it's nice to get some good news from you.
I know,
Thank
it's
you.
nice to be able to share it. Yeah, thank you.
I think that both those numbers, the good and the poor, speak to how we need to keep these things in place into that. So we've got a motion on the floor. All in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you so much. We are now at the point for the city administrator's report. That really went fast.
I didn't even talk that fast.
I know you didn't. I know. No, not just your part, but I mean, the entirety of the meeting so far went really fast.
First, I wanted to give you an update on the COVID relief program that we put into place a number of weeks ago. As of this morning, we had 15 applications in the approval stages. 6 are ineligible. Some of those were outside of the city. Some of them, the businesses were already closed and therefore were ineligible. Some were not open for a full year prior to the program being enacted, and some were over the income thresholds that are required for the program. We have 12 right now that we're waiting on follow-up responses, but from our email requests, and if they are able to give us the information we're looking for, we should be able to fund those. And we have 9 that are already approved for funding, and we should be able to cut them a check in the next few weeks. So that's very exciting to be able to finally be able to give some relief to some of these to some of these businesses.
Can you say how much? I know it was up to $10,000.
Sure.
Is that right?
There are two pots of money in this program for any business to apply for. They can apply for both. They're each $5,000. One is a relief of up to 3 months rent or mortgage. So we can reimburse you for up to 3 months rent or mortgage. Or we have your COVID expenses, your PPE expenses. And that includes if you've made modifications to your business to be able to be open during the pandemic. That could be including outdoor dining. It could be your hand sanitizer, your masks, those sort of things, plexiglass, if you had to put that in place. We can reimburse you for that as well, up to $5,000 as well. The program is still ongoing, so if there are businesses that are interested, we still can take applications. We have put some deadlines on some of the applicants who've just not been responding. And if they don't respond within a certain amount of time, then we just assume they're not interested. But there is still money available.
And if all this money is not given out, what would happen to it?
Then we can reassign it to a different program or something else. Yeah, it is our entitlement money through CDBG. And we're still spending some money that is several years old and trying to catch up. So we can reallocate to a different project.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. And next, I want to give you an update on the 4th Avenue wiring conversion. This morning, Santee Cooper began installing lights on Kingston Lake Bridge. Do we have pictures of that? It's hard to see. Sorry, it looked much better on my phone. There's one solitary light on that bridge right there. But it was very exciting to see. We've been waiting a long time to see the lights go up. There is one other light that was there when I was out there, but it was just before the bridge.
Were there lights before?
No, well, they were overhead, the tall poles, and they were on
Yes.
either end. This will put the lights on the bridge, the same as the Main Street Bridge and the bridge coming into town by Lake Busby.
Do you know how many?
For some reason, I'm thinking like 10, but I
Okay.
might just be making that up, but 10 seems like the right number.
Yeah.
And we've already spoken with Timmy Williams about getting Christmas wreaths on those to match the other ones.
Good.
And we're going to look at the old wreaths that have the garland, about seeing if we can rehab those and using those. They're much more special than the
Yes.
kind of flat LED ones. So
Yes.
if we can't rehab them, we may just look and see if we can get some new ones for all the bridges to come into town.
Wonderful. May I ask you a question? I'm sorry, Mr. Gomez, please go ahead.
I'm in no rush.
About bridges.
Yes.
When the underground work was done on the 701 overpass bridge, we were real scanty with the number of lights that we put up. Instead of doing them in pairs, there's one on one side, a distance later, the opposite, and that. Is there any?
I think you stagger them for the biggest impression, the biggest visual impression. They do the most light up.
Well,
if you put them across from each other, there'd be dead spots in between.
Well, I'm not suggesting that they be spread any further, but that they be filled in, if that was a possibility.
We can look
They,
into
they
it.
just look pretty sparse to me. We've got a lot of things going on.
The
but
bridge by 501, by Lake
The
Busby?
one that goes, oh, yes, no, the one in Conway, the one that goes over 701.
Okay.
And that's the proper name. It's the 701 overpass bridge at the old Conway Ford.
Yep,
Or there,
I
the
know
Conway
exactly what you're
Ford
talking
rental, not rental, pre-owned car sales.
Pardon me, sorry. Okay, we'll look into that,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Let's go for it.
Thank you. Are there opportunities to, sponsor is not the right word, dedicate, the light, okay.
Yeah, we do have that. We already have a light sponsorship program, I believe that Mr. Smith administers. And we can get you that information if you'd like.
Okay.
And that bridge is already named. There is a monument. It's hard, you can't see it in this picture, but where
I'm talking
that,
about the light poles themselves like we
Yeah.
have on the Main Street Bridge.
yes, we can, and that's a little different, but we can look into that and do it. There's plaques on each one of those.
That's right.
Let me look into that. I think we already have that established program, but I think we do, but I'll find out for
I
sure.
think it's included too, but I don't
Yeah.
remember the cost.
Cool.
It's a good, yeah.
I can guess, but I don't want to be wrong and say it out loud. But the bridge is named. I don't know if any of you know this, and I can't remember the name, but there's a name right where the cursor is on the screen. And that plaque, that concrete marker there is crushed. So we will rehab that once we get the parking lot in order and the bridge is done. So it's been that for as long as I've known, it's been in bad shape, but this is a good opportunity to clean it up and make it look good.
What is its name?
I can't remember. Sorry, it wasn't on my script. I'll report on that one next time. But this is one of the reasons I'm excited about this is the first lighting that has gone up. And we're hoping that means that some of the lighting will be coming down next. HTC is done with their conversion. Santee Cooper's been working on theirs for a long time. We're hoping that once they get all these lights up, and they can convert all the power. It's hot now. All the wiring underground is hot. So once they get all the lights up, then they can begin bringing the poles down. And that's very exciting. An update on the paving of the road. It is ready. They're still pouring some of the last curbing. I saw the concrete trucks out there today. We just got a request last week for a new sewer line to be run from 4th Avenue. Better now than after we resurface it. The downside is we part of the delays in this long was so that everything could settle underground. We wouldn't have humps once it's resurfaced. we don't have the luxury of waiting any longer. So once we get the sewer line in place, we're going to continue moving forward with the asphalt. We'd be here all, for another year if we kept left to go. But we hope that resurfacing can begin right after Labor Day. There's a chance that it might begin before that, but right after Labor Day, I think is a realistic goal for the resurfacing to begin. And you can even see the new curbing in that picture closest in the foreground there. That's what we were waiting on. Once the curbing's in place, then it's ready for asphalt.
If we're going to have a lot of visitors for our Christmas and Halloween show, we don't need Fourth Avenue to look like.
That's right. Fourth Avenue will be done by then.
Even with the new drainage?
Yes.
Okay.
At the last meeting, I showed you this sign as a suggestion or hope for the replacement of the 2-hour parking signs downtown. The ones we have there, they're dated, they're old, they don't use our city logo, they don't use our city font, and they can't be cleaned anymore. They're falling apart. Mayor, you asked us to look at the reverse scheme with the green and the bronze, and this is what that looks like. And we use a different background as well. This is the background that is currently on those signs. It's non-reflective. It shows up, obviously, 2-hour parking at 8 o'clock at night is not as important as it is at 8 in the morning. So the reflectiveness is probably not as important either. It is somewhat difficult to read the reflection signs. Personally I'd rather see green border and green lettering than the bronze bordering. Right. That's me.
That 2 hours looks longer than that 2 hours.
It's still 2 hours.
But yeah, I agree with you about the green trim, and I agree that it just seems to me that with sunshine or not, that one would be easier to read.
I agree.
I'm not opposed to the other color. I just think it's hard on the eye.
I didn't put this on the agenda for a vote, but if everyone is sort of leaning in the nod this way with the green border, then we'll start replacing those as we can to make them all work. There is some question sometimes about why we have the 2-hour parking downtown, and I can answer that as well, although that's not on my script either. Every downtown has this problem. We are not immune to that we have some businesses that like to park on Main Street or park on 3rd Avenue or park on Laurel Street, and they don't park in front of their own business. They park in front of somebody else's business. It's not that we necessarily have an issue with the number of parking spaces available. It's that when someone parks in front of someone else's business for an entire day, they take up a parking space that might be a customer's parking space, which is why we have 2-hour parking downtown. So if you get questions from your constituents about why we even need that, that's why. Every single day, I would say every single day, I get a complaint relayed to me about someone so-and-so is parking in front of my store again. And the only way we can regulate it is with the 2-hour parking. So if that helps you. We did have some good news last week as well. The city was awarded another recycling grant from DHEC that will allow us to purchase another 500 of the blue roll carts to be able to give away to our residents. That has increased our recycling program. The last count I got was 17% year over year from our recycling program increasing by giving them more container space. And DHEC loves us because of it. So hopefully we continue to be the poster
Will that
child.
be a first come, first served?
First come, first served.
I want us to be real open about it. I received an email a couple months ago. Somebody was just livid about how some people in prior times had gotten theirs at no cost and now he had to pay. And I responded that we had the benefit then of a grant.
That's right.
And were able to provide them. And he just thought that was the worst way to run a city. I don't know what the answer is, but maybe he'll see that ad and maybe he'll come and get one. Let's go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. We used to recycle everything. And when I say everything, I just assumed that when you come home from the grocery store with your plastic bags, those are recyclable, and we want to do the right thing. We want to recycle, right? Well, those aren't recyclable.
Right.
And then what I learned from someone who works out there is that when people try to recycle things that shouldn't be, it ends up costing us more, is my understanding.
They have not started charging us yet for that, but
Okay.
they have talked about it, and
Okay.
it might become an inevitable issue.
Well, I say all of that to say this. If there's some education component that we can do, I don't know what that thing is, but that might be.
The little green bins used to have a real finite list on the front of it that said this cardboard, plastic bottles, whatever the case may be, newspapers. But
That should be on all the
you think
bins
it's
as well.
still there?
It is, and we have routinely put out on social media and on the Access channel what is and not recyclable. For
Okay.
instance, a pizza box is
It's
not
not.
recyclable because it has
Anything
too
that
much
has food
contaminants.
residue, yeah.
Yeah,
See, and I'm still,
yeah. It's, and
I'll
some
try
things
it.
that say they're recyclable or not. So it's really, it is an educational thing. I'm not always aware of what is, and I
That's
call
right.
Reggie to grant and say, can I
But if that
recycle this?
cardboard is greasy from the pizza, it can't
I
be
call Adam and see if
recycled.
there's a burn ban in place.
But you're right. We need to continue that educational piece because it is important to be able to cut our costs. All recycling that we take to the solid waste authority right now is free. So if we're adding 17% to the recycling, that means we're reducing the normal by 17%, which means we're saving 17% on the costs that we have to transfer onto our residents.
And if we leave that to our staff to pull out of our recycling for us,
Oh, Lord.
that costs us too.
Yeah, we
So,
couldn't begin to do
We
that.
don't want to, yeah. When I didn't know about the pizza boxes, for example, I've seen them take their time to pull that out, put it in the garbage. But the better we do,
Exactly.
the easier it is for everybody.
Exactly. Thank you. This Conway Sports and Fitness Center will give away book bags and school supplies for the upcoming year to students. The giveaway will be held on August 22nd at 9 a.m. and it'll last as long as the supplies will allow it.
How many do we have? Do you know?
150.
Okay.
The giveaway will be a drive-through pickup here at the Sports and Fitness Center, and students must be present to receive the book bag and supplies. You can't send your parents for you.
Because otherwise they'll get sold.
That's right. And there's clear ones too? Thank you.
Awesome.
And if you all remember 2 weeks ago, it was only 2 weeks ago, we were battening down the hatches for a hurricane. We, as far as we know, had no damages in the city from that hurricane, which I will not say the name of. But the combined effects of that rain and the subsequent rain from the last couple of weeks has pushed the river to almost flood stage again. It's just under 11 feet right now and holding. The prediction throughout the week is it will not rise, but it also will not fall. And we need a good 3 weeks of dryness now to be able to be prepared for another storm. There are 2 right now in the Caribbean heading west. One of them will probably clear us with no problem. The other one we're watching closely. You're talking a week or so out, but we don't have the luxury of any room in the river or swamps for another storm. So just letting you all know.
So you're asking us to pray?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Our fall sports numbers are down for the year from last year. Part of the reason is certainly the coronavirus. Part of it is also the school is starting later than usual. Normally we are able to get the word out to the schools and they're able to get the word out to the parents. We are looking at a few new angles of advertising to reach those parents. But if any of you know of any kids that are interested in playing any youth sports or athletes, we're actually doing fall baseball this fall, which is unusual to make up for the lost spring. So if anybody wants to participate, please let us know. We've talked in the past a number of times actually about annexing our donut holes, utilizing our restrictive covenants. And we're looking at some of those right now in the Red Hill area just outside of Conway. As you all know, one of the conditions of receiving utilities from the city is either annexing in to the city if you're contiguous, or if you're not contiguous, filing a restrictive covenant on your property, which basically acknowledges that you have to come into the city when we ask you to, if you are contiguous. There are 11 parcels right now in the Red Hill area that are contiguous that were not when they originally came for service. And if we ever hope to be able to clean up that area, the next step is to be able to close that donut hole. So you may hopefully be seeing some annexation requests coming from that neighborhood as we try to close that donut hole in and fill back through. One last thing, because I jumped ahead and did the cases. I have 2 things actually. You all have masks in front of you from CCU. Coastal purchased a large number of those masks and then reached out to see if we'd like to buy some from them. So we have purchased masks for all of our employees and for council. Hopefully this will enable everyone to be able to participate in Teal Tuesday every Tuesday, especially as classes are back in session and hopefully we have football in the fall. You now have no excuse for not participating in Teal Tuesday on Tuesdays. And the final thing, which I was going to say earlier and I didn't, the good news about the cases dropping is that according to the Sun News, which came out just a few minutes ago, as of right now, schools will be able to reopen in person at least 2 days a week. So that is a far cry from where we were 2 weeks ago. And hopefully it's a sign that maybe we're ready for 5-day-a-week school starting here in a couple of weeks. And that's my administrative report. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions of Mr.
Emery.
Oh, yeah, well, I'd forgotten about that already, but Mr. Emery, before he sits.
I'll throw a couple at you if you
Oh,
don't
sure.
mind.
Go ahead.
We said something about getting masks like this for the city of Conway, that, what's her name, Ashley was doing.
They're still on order.
Okay. And my next question was, could not the city, us, purchase some as well to have, like, say, at our, downtown areas for sale?
Yeah, once we get the ones here and determine what the price point is going to be on those, we could theoretically sell those at other places downtown if we need to, or just refer people to here. If you see Ashley, give him a hard time because I do, that we haven't got it yet.
Yeah. The one he's wearing is really nice. by
It
the
is
way.
nice.
Yeah, maybe we could put something on the Access Channel applauding our community for bringing down our numbers to the fact that we qualify for 2 days, however you want to word it. I just think, we made the approach to them that it would help us all. And if they continue to do this, it would continue to help us. And I think that's a
It's a good idea.
step forward.
And Mr. White, let me back up one sec. The Solid Gold Booster Club is giving away the masks that say Conway Tigers on them if you join the Booster Club. So I'll throw a shout out to them.
Thanks, sir.
If you need one right away, that's the way to get one.
Join the Booster Club. Mr. Hammond?
Adam, on Laurel Street, I noticed the other day, down towards where Chauncey's is, where the oak trees are, those lights look great when they're lit up, but there's a couple trees that are not lit up. I don't know if something went out or what. I meant to say something to you a week ago, but just haven't.
We are approaching the 1-year anniversary of those lights,
Gotcha.
and they have about a 6-month lifespan. So it's just time to replace them and rewrap.
They look great when they're all lit up. I mean, it really does look nice in the mornings, but like I said, just when they're out.
Thank you.
Voila, voila.
Oh,
No.
You spoke too soon, Larry.
You only had to say you wanted it. Oh, my goodness.
You heard me, did you? Thank you, sir.
He's watching on YouTube.
My man.
2 masks in 1 day.
So he is paying attention to the
See?
council
There you
meeting.
go. See?
That is fantastic.
Did you have?
I did. I read about the story in one of the news agencies, news groups, about the lady who I guess was cited in Surfside for not wearing, at a restaurant, for not having her mask or something like that. And she claimed to have a health issue that precluded her from wearing a mask. And I don't know, they blew it up, and made it a big deal. Have we had any issues? I mean, are we having people, because everybody's not following the rules and doing what they should be. I mean, I think a lot of people are, and we're reaping the benefits, but what's this?
So the way we've approached the mandate is to educate and encourage people to wear them short of writing a ticket, unless a ticket is required. I know that there's been several gas stations where initially the employees and the customers were not wearing masks. The employees are now 100% compliant. And everywhere where I've seen or heard a complaint, the employees have gotten on board, except for maybe one place, which we're following up on. The problem, and it's always the problem, is that the customers, they're there in a moment and gone in a moment. So if someone calls and says that the customers at this gas station aren't wearing a mask, by the time the police get there to do that education or outreach, it's a different group of customers there than were there earlier. From my experience, they're probably still unmasked, but we've had the opportunity to talk to them. And if they haven't gotten in our face, if they've agreed to put on a mask, then we haven't written them a ticket. This has not happened, but had they gotten belligerent, had they refused to wear one or refused to do what was required, then we would have written them one. But that has not happened as of yet, at least not here.
That's good news.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
so much, Mr. Emery.
Thank you.
And now for council input. We'll start with Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll say that it's great to be back with everyone in person here. I think we've all had enough of the Zoom activities. So it's great to be back in person. Great to hear the numbers falling. Whether it's a mask ordinance, whether it's social distancing, whatever it is, something's working. So I'm happy to see that, in hopes that the kids will be able to get back to school shortly, even if it is a hybrid situation on the 8th. So we've got 2 weeks before that decision is made. So as a parent of a second grader and seventh grader, everyone, please keep up the work. My kids need to be back at school. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all right.
Okay, thank you. I have something else I needed to ask,
Adam Emmerich?
Anna, about the recycling. Just something to think about doing. Have the kids make a commercial about recycling, and we pay attention to what the kids say for the most part. Something like that would be an idea.
Can I jump on that?
Yes, ma'am.
We've had contests over the years, and their posters actually are printed on the recycling trucks. I mean, that was a big deal. I don't know how that stopped. I guess it's easy to forget to do something, but assuming there's some, in-school activity, or the elementary schools are real big on pushing recycling with their students. And they're probably single-handedly the biggest help with getting families to do it, because when little kids come home and say, no, we can't do that anymore, families' practices change. Good thought, Mary.
And something else, the bags that they are giving out here at the rec center, could we, the city, not add in a little pot of money to add more bags to that? I think you said you had maybe 150. You have more kids that come here during the week than that, do you not? That's a question. Yeah. Thank you. Smith Jones, I've been gotten beat up about the pool at Smith Jones not being operative, and wants to know when are we going to do something towards. I know what happened this year. I dismissed that part. So it won't happen this year, but we can at least bring it up and find out when can we get the pool working again.
Certainly, our hope is that we can get it working by next year. To replace it, it will cost a minimum of $150,000. And we don't have that budgeted. So we'll have to look and see where we can find that money to replace it. By shortening the length of the pool and reducing the deep end, we could do it for $130,000. Again, we don't have that money budgeted either. The reason there's not been an urgency to push it before now is that we could not have had it reopened in this season anyway.
Correct.
So we were going to lose the summer. And we'll have time, hopefully, to be able to have a conversation about this before next season would open and have it done. That's the goal.
And that CDBG grant funding that we may not give to the businesses, could not some of that money be used towards that?
That's a good idea, and let me look into that for us. That's a good idea.
All right. And also the Whittemore High School marker in front of the middle school, Whittemore Park Middle School, has that issue been solved? Do you know?
To the extent the city can solve it, I think it has. It was hit by a vehicle. We repaired it, put it back up. We did not erect that sign originally. It was erected by the Alumni Association. I think if they wanted to replace it entirely, they could do so if they're not happy with the fix.
Because I received the letter and I didn't know what to do. I said, let me ask you first, and then I would respond back
Certainly.
to them.
Those markers can be placed by a private group or individual, and it is not the city's responsibility necessarily to keep them and maintain them.
And
Certainly, we were able to fix it at no cost and put it back up. But if they're not happy with the fix, they can replace it.
Are you happy with the fix? I haven't seen it. I have no idea.
It's not terrible. It's not beautiful. It's a weld that you can't really weld that sort of cast aluminum, but we were able to weld it and hold it in place.
Uh-huh.
If you look at it, if you get out of your car and look at it, you may not like it, but if you don't notice it when you're driving by,
Okay.
it didn't affect the writing or the text.
Oh, it's just the stand
It's the
itself.
weld where it hits the stand.
I
Yeah.
see. I think that's a very good answer. It is not our responsibility, and, we do what we could. I need that same answer, lady. I'm sorry.
And then lastly, I would like to congratulate, our mayor for being made the mayor of the state.
Third state.
Through the municipal association, and also to Mr. Alex, congratulations for trying to become a new judge. Power to the people.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. I'm good.
thank you, Mr. White. Ms. Pam?
Yeah, I have several things. Several years ago, when we first worked on the project for the Conway Critters, at that time, Coastal, we learned a lot about how to work with Coastal. They were very generous with what they allowed their students to do, and we just got a really good sampling of what can happen when we work together, I think. But they promised us at the time when the project was completed that they would do several more for us in the future. And knowing that it takes a year or a year and a half to get their students scheduled and whoever would do it, and I don't know how they work that out, but I would like to see if we can regenerate the program. We don't know what critters we would like. That would be decided, and extensions to books and coloring books. There's a whole lot of things that go along with this little project other than just turning it over to Coastal. So if we could take a look at that, I don't think we can get anything going this year, but maybe for the following year we could, and that might be appropriate for us. And people be thinking of what would be a good critter to use. That's one. And Adam, can you tell me something about the plans for the tennis center?
Sure. I think the tennis center is a conversation that we're going to need to have. We have $875,000 budgeted for the tennis center in this year's budget. We are on a spending freeze right now for the city for anything large that is not an emergency purchase or something that is an urgent purchase, which is why you haven't seen many big contract purchases come through the agendas. And that is to make sure that we don't get ourselves in a pinch with the COVID and how the budget numbers are going to be affected. I did get an email from Allison Williams right before this meeting started with a look back on what last year's budget finished out or is going to finish out. And I'm going to ask her to have a report on the next agenda for you on how we did last year's budget. It finished out fine. This year, I'm not as worried about as I am next year, but I'm still worried about this year's budget. We have a number of unmet needs beyond the tennis center, such as the Smith Jones pool and some other things. And that's again, it's a conversation that from a policy standpoint, y'all need to have as to when we're ready to spend, if we're ready to spend $875,000 on the tennis center. I know that was going to be one of the items we talked about at the retreat that we had to cancel. And where and when we put that on an agenda is up to y'all.
Okay. And the last thing is, as children try to go back to school, will all our employees come back to work?
All of our employees are back to work. We have some working from home, not many, but a few working from home that are not impacted by the need to be at their desk every day. We recognize that there is a likelihood that if schools are not back in school 5 days a week, that we're going to have childcare issues for some of our employees. Recognizing that, we will work with them to the extent possible. Our hope is that September 8th, when school starts, we can sort of start reopening again. We started June 1st, we were going to reopen everything and had a phased approach. June 1st, kind of the wheels fell off the bus for COVID. We went the wrong way quickly. And so we put the brakes on the reopening plan. We're hoping that when school reopens, it'll start a sense of normalcy that we can start reopening. But we recognize that we're going to have to adjust some people's schedules. We're going to have to adjust some people's work environment to be able to allow them to have childcare. We don't know from week to week what that's going to be. So starting September 8th, we're going to be evaluating that carefully and working with our employees to the extent possible. But we need them to be able to do work at the same time. So there's going to be a balance that we're going to have to strike. And I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but it is something we're considering at each department level. We know each department's going to have different needs. And hopefully I'll be able to give you a report a couple weeks into this and let you know that we're completely back to normal, to the new normal, whatever that may be.
Are our buildings open for people to go?
Currently, all of our buildings are open by appointment. We have, some of them are still closed. City Hall is closed unless you're there for court or by appointment. The building and planning department is closed unless you're there by appointment, and finance is the same way. Obviously, this building cannot function without being open to the public, so it's a little bit different, but there are safety precautions in this building that can't be made with other buildings too. We're hoping to be able to lessen that closure and be able to be more open as we go forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Towns. Mr. Hubbard.
Not very much at all. Just glad to see everybody in person. I will say the masks, I've had some personal feedback that people prefer me with a mask on. But these are eerily akin to the cheerleaders' uniforms. And I cannot unsee William wearing that a while ago.
Please, Mr. Goldfinch, show us.
Well, Ashley, who had these ordered, his daughter is a cheerleader.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering if something happened to her costumes, her outfits. We'll see. He might have chopped them up and resewn them.
Yeah, that's hard to unsee.
It's really good looking now.
They are.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you, Mayor. Adam alluded to a large part of what I was going to share. Just a more long-term concern. Try to be optimistic, and so really this thought is intended to the department heads that are watching this meeting. What we've experienced economically in the last few months, most Americans have not felt because of the massive waves of stimulus that's been pumped into our system through monetary policy, through stimulus checks, through a number of different things that were done to really help people out. And it was a great thing. And it was probably one of the few times the federal government's gotten something right in a long time. But anyway, at some point we're going to feel this. And I hope I get to eat those words, but at some point we're going to feel this. And I would just urge every employee, every department head, us too, to be very careful at, what we spend, how we spend, and all of you know how you do your jobs, and you do a great job, and you know how to do it best, but how can you be the most efficient? Because, not this year, but next, in the following year, we're going to probably be in a tight situation, and every penny that's left over is going to make a difference. And so I would just urge all of you to be cognizant of that, and to really look at your budgets and how you spend money, and anyway. So anyway, I know I've harped on that before, but it's just more of a longer term concern of mine that I wanted to share. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Goldfinch. Mr. Hyman.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo William's sentiments in dealing with that, but want to kind of, I guess, go a little further with that. One of the things that I'm very proud of, and that I'm seeing, I spoke with someone with Conway Downtown Live, listening to Adam talk about, or not Adam, but listening to Ashley discuss the Ghost Walk and the celebration of lights, the fact that we're reopening fall sports, things like that have brought us some income and brought Conway Downtown alive. And the fact that we're being very creative in implementing those things, whether we're, I know Conway Downtown Alive and doing their ghost walk, they're going to have it to where you're not walking in big bunches. There's so many people out there right now in groups that could just throw their hands up and say, we're not even going to try. And I'm proud of our city for not doing that. I'm proud that we're trying to reopen safely. I'm very proud that we are Conway strong. And it is very good to see everybody back. I like to see the smiling eyebrows is what it kind of seems like. But I'm happy to be back, and good to see all you guys. See you guys.
Thank you so much. rather than echo anything that I've heard, is John Rogers still here? Is his birthday today or is it just this week? What is, okay, all right, well, I was going to do a rousing happy birthday, but since it's actually Wednesday, I'll just tell him personally.
We'll Zoom it.
We'll Zoom it, yeah, that's what we'll do. All right, very good. But there's nothing that I've heard that I disagree with. There's very little that I could add to the discussion. I'm just going to hold us to our resolve to make sensible decisions along the way. It is what's going to be required of us. There's no question about it. I am also happy to be back. I was a little bit timid about it, especially since at our last meeting, I was the person 2 days later who started with some symptoms and it probably, had this opportunity to infect everybody. I think we're going to be okay this time. I seriously want to thank the staff for setting up this place. I don't know that it could be any safer than this, or any better efficient, any more efficient, because I can see everybody just about. I have to decide which side to look at to see whose hand is up, but otherwise it's wonderful. Did you see us using this location for a while?
Yes, I think until things are as more back to normal, this will be our location.
Okay.
We looked at City Hall to go back to City Hall, but it would require some major changes, and I just don't think anyone would be happy with what it would look like for the way you would be arranged.
That's right.
The public would be fine. It would just, council would not, there would be no way to be open like this where you could see each other
That
in
makes
that
sense.
building.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. With that said, I will entertain a motion for us to go into executive session. Mr. Goffman.
So moved.
Mr. Hammond.
Second.
Properly seconded motion to go into executive session. We will do so to discuss negotiations incident to a proposed purchase of property adjacent to Crabtree Canal. All in favor with a show of hands? Motion carries unanimously, and we are now in executive session.
Can I take a 2-minute
I was going to ask
restroom?
And I was about to take a vote. All in favor with a show of hands. So we're out of executive session. Thank you very
Pause
much.
for a moment to get back online.
Sure, absolutely.
We're good?
Wonderful. We are now back out of executive session and are about to take action on, was there anything actionable? There are two
One
things.
was.
One was, and that is the property. Is there a motion relative to purchase the property that was discussed with Hyman?
Mayor, I would make a motion that we offer $21,000 for the smaller portion and request a first right of refusal on the larger portion on budget B.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second, Mr. Goldfinch?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a properly seconded motion. All in favor of the show of hands, please. Motion also carries unanimously. I think that concludes our work for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Hubbard, Mr. Goldfinch? Anybody opposed? Show your hand, please. So unanimously, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. There's dinner? There's